Thanks for joining us, and today we're going to talk about Kriya Yoga and the origin of suffering. So there's an old adage that talks about the law of karma, which is, as you sow, so shall ye reap. And so this is the idea that there is a universal law that what you do, you have repercussions. This is known as the law of karma. It is known obviously in the Vedic religions. In Kriya Yoga, it's referenced. In Buddhism, in Hinduism, many religions, and even in a general pop culture, people will talk about karma. Karma is action and reaction. And really the idea in a yogic type of spiritual path is that one's actions, one's thoughts have consequence. When we're talking about Kriya Yoga and we're talking about the karma that one experiences in one's life, the effects, we find that many of the things that happen to us are rooted in our consciousness. And so there have been a development of thought about karma for millennia. And it even goes back to the times of the Buddha, which is 2,600 years ago or so. And certainly he had a very concise description of the operations of karma. And certainly many of these kinds of ideas and understandings about the way that karma operates are embedded in different spiritual traditions. So some say that desire is the root of suffering. Right? Others may take a more fatalistic view. But we all experience a crucial point in the path of karma, of cause and effect in our lives. And at that crucial point, we have opportunity to make decisions. Now, what we experience is feelings about the world. So sensations that are pleasant, sensations that are unpleasant, and sensations that are neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And this is the feeling. We all experience the feeling. What happens after that, we have some more choice about. We can't control the feelings that arise, but we can be aware, at least, if we make the effort, of our reactions to those. So this gets into an area in spiritual sadhana, in spiritual practice, and just in general experience about making a choice at the crucial point where one experiences sensations. They're pleasant, they're unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant. And this craving comes up in our experience that we like that pleasant sensation, perhaps, that we dislike that unpleasant sensation, perhaps, that we identify with a particular sensation, perhaps. And this is the root of the suffering that happens later, the karmic repercussions, if you will, that go down the stream, if you will. So you can think of karma as like a river. We're standing on the bank of experience, of feeling experience. Our reactions to that feeling in terms of liking, disliking, or identifying with that particular feeling is what starts to pull us down the river. It pulls us away from our more neutral vantage point of feeling towards craving. And when we're in craving, if we have another opportunity too, to let go of that craving. So if we have a reaction coming up about not liking something, we can become even more entrenched into that by clinging to it and having beliefs and thoughts about that. And that is the clinging aspect, which further pulls us down the river to the next junction, which is that we have an inventory, we embody an inventory of what we like and dislike about certain things. So craving has become this habitual tendency, which is called bhava, or embodiment. And that really can become a sense of identity for people. And that can be further exacerbated into a birth of action where one will use thoughts, opinions in certain ways, one will embody that, one will take actions and so on to further drive us down that karmic road towards greater repercussions. Now, in the case of doing wholesome actions, there's going to be wholesome repercussions, right? So those can be enjoyable. Inevitably, those will end because the moment will change. So by craving, by reacting to the sense feelings with a preference, this craving, and clinging to that as a sense of identity, becoming that and taking it on as a personality, one ends up moving farther down that karmic stream towards suffering. So people who are not schooled in spiritual practices may use a variety of different strategies to deal with unhappiness, with suffering. Normally, it is a process of either aversion, trying to push something away, which creates further suffering by becoming entrenched and identified with it, by absorbing oneself in sense pleasures, which more or less does the same thing, exacerbates craving. Without some kind of strategy, folks will continue to perpetuate karmic repercussions because they haven't been able to let go at the feeling level of the craving that arises. Certainly in some spiritual practices like Jnana Yoga, this yoga of wisdom, and other practices where they start to become aware of the sensations as they arise and then say, okay, I'm just going to let this go and not react to it, not have a craving associated with it, hence not a clinging associated with it, not a sense of becoming associated with it, not a birth of action associated with it, and not consequently suffering associated with it. They're allowing themselves to break that link, if you will, and stay at that sensation feeling level. This is, by doing a practice like that, can be quite challenging and requires a lot of inner willpower. It's not really about willpower, it's as wote power. Really what you're doing is letting go of the craving that arises in the present moment. Requires a lot of mindfulness practice, and really it would be more appropriate for a more advanced spiritual practitioner. Very challenging for somebody who's starting out in that because they're overwhelmed and they can't see straight. They don't have a clear understanding of the whole nature of mind and personality, emotions, and so on. So they can't see clearly, and it can be very difficult to make appropriate decisions without becoming very obsessed about their practice. So the advantage of Kriya Yoga is that it basically allows you, through the process of pratyahara, of internalization, to swim upstream somewhat. And by swimming upstream, you are actually moving up that karmic river closer to the origin of where those thoughts came from before they became the feelings, before there was sense contact, before there was consciousness, that these thoughts, if you will, these formations, the predispositions for our experience, what are sometimes called samskaras or sanskaras, these karmic seeds, you're getting closer to the origin of that, and in a deep meditative state. So consequently, there's less likelihood of a reaction, of a craving, clinging, becoming, etc., because you're in a more controlled environment in meditation. But this is predicated on the fact that you have an awareness that allows those things to come up so you can let them go. Many spiritual practices and some approaches in certain Kriya Yoga schools are very focused on concentrating and trying to push away distractions, getting so absorbed and concentrated in meditation that they're unaware of the natural process of the samskaras, of the karmic seeds arising. And because of that, they're going to miss opportunities for letting those go, hence reducing their power and then reducing the negative karma, if you will. So Kriya Yoga is great because it can lead you upstream to some degree. And so you can have a more objective perspective of the arising of those samskaras, of those karmic seeds. But you still need to go through the process of letting them go as they arise. And when you combine that in addition to a sort of a mindfulness practice in everyday life, where one is aware of one's reactions to present circumstances, meaning your awareness of how the feelings, how you react to the feelings that you're experiencing of the pleasant, the unpleasant, or neither pleasant nor unpleasant, and all of the thoughts that arise from that, and the sense of self that arises from that, if you're able to let that go, you reduce the karmic load considerably. And you combine that with a practice like Kriya Yoga that seeks to do that in a more controlled environment in meditation, then you have a really good winning strategy for spiritual development. And this will help you to understand the origin of suffering and to take tangible steps that actually help to reduce the karmic load on your experience. So these are the kind of practices that we teach at Modern Kriya. This is the orientation that we have at Modern Kriya, that is all evidence-based, that it all very practical, and it is intended to empower students to develop spiritually to the highest levels, right? Because the process, when one understands that whole process of how karma manifests through thoughts, feelings, and so on, and how when we make decisions, it has karmic repercussions, which condition the next arising of thoughts and feelings within us, we start to get an understanding of how change can happen, right? That it can happen through practical action of applying the understanding about everyday awareness and how to let go of craving, and as well how to develop some of those skills in deep meditation so that you can apply them in everyday life to accelerate your spiritual development. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.